It's the day of the sports festival, and the winner of the 1,000-meter race is RMC Jing, finishing with a clean time of 2 minutes and 36 seconds. And yeah, he's popular. When I say popular, I mean the girls are absolutely head over heels for him. Jing splashes water from a bottle over his face, instantly triggering a fan service moment. One girl rushes up with a towel. He accepts it and wipes the sweat from his face, and the girl runs off, jumping in joy, proudly shouting that her senpai accepted her towel. Jing, however, doesn't care. Our boy ain't no simp. He's focused on his status panel, which just notified him of plus 20 running experience from his task. It's a bit more than usual. He also receives plus 45 points in another stat, which actually annoys him since it's completely useless to him and always levels up too fast. While he's distracted, a tennis ball suddenly comes flying straight at him. Jing casually catches it with one hand. From the field, the person who threw it clicks his tongue in irritation. One of Jing's friends walks up, and Jing asks if he knows who threw the ball. His friend, Lugo, looks nervous and asks if Jing is talking about Yu Guang, the tyrant of the school. He panics, asking why would Jing butt heads with someone like him of all people. Lugo sighs and asks if this is because of a girl again. He tells Jing that he should just pick one girl already and stop drawing female aggro everywhere he goes. Jing tosses his used towel straight at Lugo, saying he's not interested in any of them. Lugo protests, saying even if Jing doesn't care, the other guys definitely do, and that Yugong isn't someone you mess with unless you've got a solid plan. Jing replies calmly that he does have a plan. He's going to work out. Lugo stares, saying working out won't be enough and telling Jing to at least be careful. Jing just smirks. Working out might be useless for others, but he's different. He arrived in this world a month ago, a world similar to Earth, and with him came something strange, a transparent panel that follows him everywhere. Every effort he puts in gives real rewards. His hard work is never wasted. As long as he practices enough, he can activate corresponding skills. Right as his cool inner monologue ends, his stomach growls loudly. Daily training boosts him massively, but the energy consumption is insane, and since he's broke, his fridge is completely empty. The reason Jing trains this hard isn't just to show off. The place he lives is called the 5th Metropolitan Circle. The farther out the circles go, the poorer and more desolate life becomes. The farther in, the more prosperous and noble it gets. He has half a year until graduation. His goal is to move into the inner circles. He refuses to live his entire life as a nobody stuck in the outer ring. At the store, the cashier thanks him for shopping and tells him the total is 210. Jing freezes. Shocked, he hurriedly removes some items to cut costs. On his way back, he mutters to himself, wondering if this world has gone insane, charging 30 just for 5 eggs. Suddenly, a black cat jumps out in front of him, blocking his path. The cat is covered in scars with a strange ring around its tail. A moment later, it collapses unconscious right in front of him. Jing looks around nervously, wondering if the cat is pulling some kind of insurance scam. But after a closer look, he realizes the cat is genuinely injured, like it lost a fight. Then the cat suddenly starts talking, complaining that it never expected the world of stray cats to be this cruel. Jing freezes. He asks if the cat just spoke, immediately deciding that this situation is way too suspicious. His eyes lock onto the ring on the cat's tail, wondering what it could be. The transparent panel activates, notifying him that a divine substance has been detected, and it begins absorbing the divinity. In this world, 287 years ago, the god who ruled everything died. Humanity witnessed that moment with their own eyes. After the god's death, humans became independent. And Jing? He plans to grind his way to godhood himself. Later that night, back at his apartment, Jing pours some cat food for the stray cat. The cat looks at the bowl with pure side-eye, its face full of disgust. Confused, Jing asks if the stray should really be this picky and reminds it that beggars can't be choosers, but then he remembers something important. This cat talked earlier. That thought hits him hard. Maybe it's not a cat at all. Jing immediately walks into the kitchen, chops up some vegetables, tosses them into a wok with rice, and quickly cooks a proper dish. He places it in front of the cat and asks if it'll at least eat this. The cat's eyes instantly light up. It starts drooling, pupils sparkling before absolutely stuffing its face. That confirms it. Jing figures he was right. The reason this thing can speak human language is because it isn't really a cat. It's probably a human or something else that turned into one, and whatever happened, it definitely has something to do with the ring on its tail. Just then, the panel notifies him that divinity absorption is complete. A new prompt appears asking if he wants to activate a skill called Twin Life for 500 divinity. After reading the description, Jing doesn't hesitate and activates it immediately. A golden droplet forms in the air, falls into his hand, and sinks straight into his body. Twin Life is a passive skill that allows him to resurrect freely within 7 days of death. After each use, it has a cooldown of 3 months. Jing stares at it, wondering why something this broken isn't an active skill. Looking further, he notices several other skills still locked, all requiring more divinity to unlock. With a slightly sinister look, he thinks all he needs to do is keep siphoning divinity from the cat, while the poor thing happily licks the plate clean, completely unaware. But when Jing looks at the scars covering its body, he feels a bit guilty. Continuing to drain it would be seriously inhumane. He decides to find another way instead, gently petting the cat as he makes up his mind. Standing up, Jing decides to head out and look for clues about divinity, what it is, and how else he can obtain it. After Jing leaves the room, the expression on the cat's face suddenly turns serious. A red flash of light flickers in the corner of the room. Later that night, in the outer ring, for people living in the outer ring, entering the inner circle is a ridiculously high difficulty task. Even if they manage to get in, the entry fee alone is enough to bankrupt a small wealthy family. And yet countless people still try. What most don't know is that there are other ways. If someone becomes a renowned martial artist, those fees no longer matter. As Jing walks through the streets, a bald man holding a bat steps out and asks if he's the kid named Jing. Jing calmly asks if there's a problem. More people emerge from the shadows, saying Jing has offended his boss, Yu Guang. They threaten him. Jing sighs, completely unimpressed, and asks what they think they can even do to him. Suddenly, the bald man goes flying backwards, slamming into the ground over a dozen feet away. The others freeze, looking at each other, then at Jing, asking what just happened. Before they can react, another one gets nailed in the face, then a third. Jing is throwing tiny pebbles at them, using the aiming skill he gained from playing darts. Yu Guang steps forward, walking past his men struggling on the ground. He comments that Jing seems to have a few tricks of his own, but he adds that it still won't be enough to beat him. Yu Guang throws a punch. Jing focuses on the fist and dodges it cleanly. Yu Guang turns around, surprised, and admits that Jing is pretty agile too. What Jing didn't expect was this. Yu Guang is a martial artist, exactly what he needed. It saves him the trouble of finding someone to ask. As Jing walks towards Yu Guang, he casually asks him to tell him everything he knows about martial arts if he wants to live. A few minutes later, Yu Guang crashes into a wall, cracking it on impact. He collapses to the ground and immediately starts begging Jing to spare him, saying he'll do anything. Jing smirks, wondering what he even expected. This dumbass just spammed the same move over and over, leaving himself wide open the entire time. One clean strike was all it took. Yu Guang starts crawling backwards, swearing he'll never mess with Jing again and begging to be forgiven just this once. Jing crouches in front of him and calmly asks what the move he used earlier was called. Yu Guang hurriedly explains that it wasn't really a move, it's called inner force, energy gathered from all parts of the body and then expelled outward. Jing asks how inner force is trained or who he should learn it from. Yu Guang says he only learned the surface level himself. He admits he's not skilled enough to explain it properly and begs Jing to spare him. Jing grabs him by the collar, asking if he's trying to act pathetic now. He says he's heard plenty about Yu Guang, that he smokes, drinks, perms his hair, and even commits arson and murder. He pauses, then asks if he forgot to mention the perm. He questions whether someone like Yu Guang would really submit after losing a single fight. Tears streaming down his face, Yu Guang shouts that those were all rumors. He insists his hair is completely natural. He says he spread those rumors himself to build a scary persona. If any of that were true, he would have been expelled from school long ago. Jing slaps him hard across the face. He tells Yu Guang to remember today's lesson and warns him not to bother him at school ever again. Jing adds that while the rumors may be fake, Yu Guang bullying students definitely isn't. As punishment, he orders him to write a self-criticism essay and recite it 10 times in front of the entire class tomorrow morning. He also tells Yu Guang to delete any videos his lackeys might have taken of Jing today. Jing suddenly pulls out his phone, making Yu Guang flinch. He shoves it in his face and tells him to type out the dojo's address so Jing can go ask himself. Following the navigation, Jing heads toward the city's inner ring. Notifications start flooding in. He receives massive amounts of experience across multiple stats for winning the fight. Normally, it takes over an hour of intense training just to earn 200 points, but he gained far more in just a few minutes, all from beating not-so-tough opponents. He also unlocks a fighting-related skill. Jing soon arrives at the dojo. From the outside, it looks surprisingly nice. Inside, he tells a woman at the front that he's here to check out the dojo. She immediately hushes him, saying the master is currently teaching a class. The master explains to the students that the breathing method they're practicing is the foundational step to activating force within the body. Only when inner energy fully circulates can someone be considered initiated into martial arts. Jing's eyes sparkle at the chance to learn something new. He quietly asks the woman if he can join the class as well. She blushes as his face suddenly gets close, then nods and tells him he can join, asking him not to force himself too much. Jing thanks her and quickly moves to an empty spot. He begins following the master's instructions. The woman watches with concern since this is clearly Jing's first time trying this. The master tells everyone to inhale air until they physically can't anymore. The woman thinks there have to be at least a few usable talents among the students she selected, otherwise the master might fire her. Students begin dropping off quickly, some start coughing, others even puke. The one student she had the highest hopes for collapses as well. The master walks towards her and she immediately starts apologizing profusely, begging for a few more days to find suitable talent. The old man walks right past her and tells her to be quiet. One student is still holding on. Even though the breathing method sounds simple, it's extremely difficult to execute. It requires an enormous lung capacity. Anyone with insufficient capacity doesn't even qualify to practice it. Jing can feel the internal energy inside his body constantly expanding, like it's about to explode. Finally, the master tells him to relax and breathe. He asks Jing if he feels okay. The woman rushes over, asking if he feels any discomfort anywhere. Jing shakes his head and says it's the opposite. He feels refreshed. The woman immediately pushes the old man aside, grabs Jing's hand, and excitedly asks his name, asks if he wants to join their Golden Wind dojo. Suddenly, a window shatters. Something crashes in and latches onto one of the failed students. A humanoid bug-like creature begins devouring him alive, leaving everyone frozen in shock. The master quickly opens a door and orders everyone to evacuate immediately. He tells the woman, the manager, to maintain order. The bug stops eating and suddenly leaps towards the manager. Jing reacts instantly, diving forward and pinning her to the ground, saving her at the last second. She thanks him, her heart racing, secretly thinking she wants to stay like this forever. Jing looks at the bug, recalling what Yu Guang said earlier. Gather energy from all parts of the body and release it all at once. He tightens his focus. This is the perfect opportunity to experiment. The bug leaps at Jing and he throws a punch straight into one of its claws. The impact does nothing. Jing narrows his eyes, wondering if this thing's like a cockroach, capable of withstanding hundreds of times its own body weight. He pulls his hand back, focusing all his strength into a single point. The next strike lands. The bug's exoskeleton shatters and its body is sent flying backward. Jing dusts off his shoulder, casually commenting that the bug was way weaker than it looked. The master, however, is stunned. Jing had only just learned how to use inner energy, yet he released such an enormous amount all at once. A body like his shouldn't be able to handle much more. The bug slams one arm into the ground, forcing itself back to its feet. Jing confidently tells it to come at him, saying the outcome won't change no matter how hard it tries. He starts gathering his energy again, and suddenly coughs up blood. Jing freezes, wondering what just happened to him. The bug lunges again. Jing realizes he may have screwed up by overestimating himself. A blue slash of light cuts through the air. The bug is sliced apart and completely destroyed. Jing stares in shock. A woman steps forward, introducing herself as a member of the White Raven Squad, captain of Squad 838, Voidblade. She announces that she's taking over this area and orders anyone unrelated to the incident to evacuate immediately. This is the first time Jing has ever heard of a squad like this, and for her to erase that bug in a single strike, he wonders if everyone in her organization is this terrifying. Voidblade studies Jing closely. He looks young, yet he managed to injure a bug like that using only his fists. She licks her lips slightly, thinking he's not only talented, but pretty handsome too. Someone like him has to be recruited. She walks up to Jing and hands him a note. She tells him to go to the address written on it this Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. Jing glances at the note. It's the address of a library. Later that evening, outside the dojo, the manager rushes over, checking every inch of Jing to make sure he's okay, clearly taking the opportunity to feel him up as well. She asks if she should take him to her house, then quickly corrects herself, saying she meant the hospital for a checkup. Jing tells her he's fine, thanks her for letting him visit the dojo, and tries to leave. She insists that he has to come back the next day. The master adds that it's extremely rare for someone Jing's age to have such strength on their very first contact with inner energy. He says a small dojo like theirs couldn't possibly contain someone like him. On his way home, Jing receives another flood of points for defeating the bug. He also unlocks a new skill, Inch Force. It allows him to compress inner energy into a single point and accelerate it to maximum speed over the shortest distance, capable of breaking even the toughest defenses. Jing's itching to try it again, but he almost spits blood once more. He remembers the master's warning about reckless use of inner energy. Deciding he's not trying to speed run death, Jing stops and chooses to get proper rest for the night. When he gets home, he notices lights coming from his room, even though he clearly turned everything off. He checks the security camera on his phone. The cat is on his computer. Jing rushes upstairs and asks what the cat is doing on his computer. Sweating profusely, the cat tries to act like a normal cat. Jing sighs and says he'll deal with this tomorrow after he wakes up. He collapses onto the bed. The cat watches him confused. She smells blood on him and wonders if he got into a fight. She mutters about who would dare bully her human. She jumps onto his stomach and tells him to explain what happened. She reassures him not to worry and tell him everything. She introduces herself. Her name is Noir, leader of the Dragon Clan. She promises to seek justice for him. Jing calmly says he knew she wasn't just a cat and tells her to forget it and let him sleep. Noir insists he at least tell him who did this to him. The next morning, Jing cooks a full meal, fully restored after resting. As Noir stuffs her face again, she asks if he wasn't beaten by a person, but by a monster he defeated. Jing admits she's right. Noir frowns, saying she's never heard of monsters appearing inside the city. Jing pats her head, thanking her for worrying about him so much. Noir gets flustered when he calls her by her name. She looks away and says he's not allowed to call her Noir. He must address her respectfully as the lord and leader of the clan. Jing nods and says he'll call her Lord Noir then. Since you can talk, he asks what you were doing on my computer last night. Noir immediately starts sweating again. She explains that the ring on her tail is a type of god relic and she was just searching for information about it online. Jing suddenly grabs the ring, asking if it's really a relic, instantly leaving her flustered. 287 years ago, the gods died. What remained were golden specks of light, god relics. Jing had only heard legends about them. This is the first time he's ever seen one up close. Now it makes sense why he was able to absorb divinity. Noir snaps at him, asking how long he plans to keep pinching her tail. Jing immediately lets go and awkwardly asks if she was trying to find instructions on how to use it. Noir flops onto the floor, saying that's not it at all. She just wants to take it off. She explains that the Dragon Clan is the largest clan in the city. They control entertainment venues and even cooperate with martial arts halls to run certain drug operations. Because they grew too fast, they attracted countless enemies. One day she was attacked inside her own villa. Someone forced this ring onto her, turning her into a cat. By the time she managed to escape, her clan had already fallen into someone else's hands. The only way to return to her original form is to remove the ring, and once she does, she swears she'll kill everyone responsible for this. Jing asks what her next move is. If even the internet couldn't help, the library probably couldn't either. Noir tells him she already has a plan. Jing just needs to practice martial arts and become strong. He asks what that has to do with her situation. She explains that once he becomes strong, various organizations will try to recruit him. Among them, there will be people who possess god relics. From there, they can follow the clues and find a way to remove the ring. Jing wonders if he wasn't already scouted last night. Noir says she'll introduce him to the best dojo possible. She asks if he's heard of the Hidden Dragon Dojo. Jing remembers it clearly. Back when he was researching martial arts schools, the Hidden Dragon Dojo was the most expensive in the city. But the reason he remembers it isn't the price. It's the insane number of bad reviews. Noir scoffs, asking why those critics even bothered learning martial arts if they couldn't endure a little hardship. She says that among real martial artists, no one looks down on the Hidden Dragon Dojo. Jing asks how he's even supposed to get in. Noir says it's simple. He just needs to challenge the dojo. Jing asks if they'd really accept him after he smashes up their venue. Noir tells him to relax. It's basically an interview. There are 3 ways to enter a dojo. First, pay. Second, natural talent. Third, dojo storming, also known as challenging. She explains that on the path of a martial artist, mindset is everything. Only someone with an invincible spirit can truly become invincible. Challenging the dojo is both a self-recommendation and the best way to prove that spirit. She jumps onto the window and tells him to be at the dojo the next day. She says she's heading out to take care of a few things first. The next day, Jing arrives at the dojo and is greeted by a student. Jing shakes his hand, thinking it's a normal greeting, but the guy suddenly starts squeezing hard. Jing wonders if this is some kind of test and decides to take it seriously. He channels his inner energy and crushes the man's hand, making him beg for mercy. The other students burst out laughing, explaining that this guy's a martial arts fanatic who challenges everyone he meets, even though he loses most of the time. Embarrassed, he snaps at them to shut up. Suddenly, everyone runs back to training. The dojo master is coming. An old man is pushed out in a wheelchair with Noir sitting casually on his lap. Behind them are 4 direct disciples. The regular students whisper in shock, wondering why the direct disciples have stepped into the common area for the first time. Something major must be happening. Jing notices Noir sitting on the old man's lap. The old man tells everyone to quiet down. He asks if Jing is the one who came to challenge the dojo today. Noir winks at Jing. Jing quickly confirms that it's him. The old man says it's been a long time since anyone dared challenge his dojo and asks if he thinks he's qualified. Jing replies honestly that he doesn't know. His combat-related level is still pretty low. The old man says he'll ask Jing a few questions before they begin. He asks Jing's name. Jing answers. His age, 17. He asks where he lives, what his parents do, whether he's an only child or has siblings. Jing starts wondering why this feels less like a dojo challenge and more like a marriage interview. Noir coughs loudly, trying to get the old man back on track. The old man laughs and tells Jing not to be nervous. He says it's only natural to ask a few questions of a future son-in-law. Jing whispers to Noir, asking what the hell is going on. Noir whispers back that she has no idea either. A girl suddenly steps forward and asks her grandfather to let her test whether Jing is qualified by fighting him herself. This Chun-Li looking girl tells Jing not to worry, saying she'll go easy on him as she takes her stance. Jing nods and accepts. The regular students immediately declare Jing doomed after seeing a direct disciple step in. Noir tilts her head, wondering why he's still fighting when they already said this was a marriage interview. The girl attacks him, warning him to be ready. Jing locks onto her movements, sidesteps instantly, grabs her wrist, cartwheels her over his head, and slams her into the ground, knocking her out cold. The green-haired disciple comments that Jing's form and positioning are extremely precise and that his style reminds him of the one he used in his younger days. The bald old man laughs, saying Noir really found him a good student. Noir puffs out her chest proudly, saying it was a given, even though she was sweating bullets just a moment ago. Jing asks if he's accepted into the dojo now that he's won the challenge. The old man rolls forward and says that Jing is without a doubt qualified to become a direct disciple after defeating Shen Ying, especially without any prior martial arts training. The old man adds that they should change how they address each other first. Jing immediately catches on, calling the old man master and addressing the others as seniors. The green-haired senior laughs, saying Jing adopts fast. A voice complains behind him. Shen Ying says she's also one of his seniors and that she only lost today because she underestimated him. Jing nods, says he understands, and thanks her for her guidance as she pouts. Another woman calls him young master and says she'll take him to handle the registration process. Jing asks why he's suddenly being called young master. The old man explains that his direct disciples cannot be looked down upon, and since Jing will be considered an inner ring resident after becoming his disciple, the title is only appropriate. Jing asks if he can skip the title since it feels awkward. The woman offers to call him Master Jing instead. Jing sighs and gives up, saying it's fine as long as they're happy. In the lounge, while the woman handles his registration, Jing tells Noir that challenging the dojo wasn't as hard as she made it sound. Noir shakes her head and says he's wrong. She explains that Shen Ying is far stronger than Jing, but she lost purely due to her arrogance, not because Jing overpowered her. Jing asks if she really underestimated him that badly. Noir confirms it. If Shen Ying had been even slightly cautious, the fight wouldn't have ended like that. She adds that a win is still a win and tells him not to overthink it. Jing still feels like his victory was pure luck. Then he remembers something and asks where Noir was last night. He asks if she stayed at the dojo all night. Noir says she had to speak with Grandpa Lee to get Jing accepted. She casually drops that Grandpa Lee once almost stole her grandma from her grandpa back in the day, and that made him easy to persuade. The woman returns and hands Jing his authentication card, telling him to swipe it at the access control whenever he enters or leaves the dojo. The next day, students gossip about how the new kid spent the entire night training at the dojo. Jing gains a huge amount of points from his all-night training session. The old man tells him to hold on a little longer, warning him not to waste the entire night's effort by giving up now. After a few more minutes, Jing's inner energy levels up, and Jing collapses flat on his back, exhausted. The old man says Jing is the strongest learner out of all the disciples he's ever accepted. He adds that if Jing keeps up this pace, he'll be able to learn the Dragon Clan's official technique soon. Jing immediately springs up, asking what technique he's talking about and what level he needs to reach to learn it. The old man laughs, pleased that Jing is such a martial arts fanatic, and offers him his hand. Jing takes it, wondering if this is another spar. Suddenly, the old man's eyes turn bloodshot. Jing feels a massive amount of pure inner energy surge into his body. He panics, wondering what he's supposed to do since he can't block the flow at all. The old man stops and asks Jing if he played any sports growing up. Jing answers that he only did some running and light workouts, nothing serious, and asks if something's wrong with his body. The old man shakes his head and says there's no problem. In fact, Jing's body is like it was molded by a god with OCD. Every organ, muscle, and bone is balanced to a frightening degree. Jing knows this because of the panel rewarding his effort. After unlocking the fighting skill, his body transformed into one perfectly suited for combat. Jing asks if he can learn the Dragon Clan's technique right away. The old man looks surprised and says he's rushing things. After training all night, his body is covered in injuries. Practicing the Dragon Clan's technique in this state would be no different than suicide. Jing asks what he's supposed to do instead. The old man tells him to go to the lounge and he'll send someone with ointment to help his recovery. Later, in the lounge, while Jing is stretching, someone knocks on the door. It's Shan Ying, the girl he fought, carrying the ointment. Jing immediately starts sweating, wondering if she's here for revenge. She walks in and tells him to take his shirt off. Jing immediately complies. Shan Ying looks at his body and comments that he's built pretty well. She tells him to lie down on the massage table. The moment he does, she calls him a good boy and tells him not to move during the treatment. She starts applying the ointment. Jing squirms and asks what she's doing. For some reason, she climbs on top of him and reminds him that she literally just told him not to move. She presses herself against him, saying he doesn't need to look so shocked. She adds that he should already know she's extremely competitive. She keeps applying the ointment in a way that makes him blush. When he doesn't respond, she asks if he's not going to stop her. Jing says he can endure this much for his senior. Shan Ying suddenly pulls back, admitting that it was her fault earlier. Her carelessness made her lose to him, and yet she still had thoughts of revenge, even using this chance to deliberately tease him. Blushing, she asks if he's mad at her for this. Jing says he's not mad at all and asks her to continue the treatment. She quickly grabs more ointment and says she understands. She adds that she's done with his upper body and tells him to take off his pants. Jing stops her before she can touch them and says he can handle that himself. He doesn't want to trouble his senior too much. Xianying giggles, saying she was just joking, and asks why he's so scared. She hands him the ointment tube, saying she'll leave the rest to him for now, until next time, before walking out while humming. Jing trains throughout the night again. The next morning, while walking down the street, he complains that yesterday was way too scary and that he almost got devoured by a woman. Thanks to the training, his fighting skill reaches level 3. With nothing else to do, he decides to go to the library. He remembers the woman from last night said she was from the White Raven Squad, basically the city's special police organization, even if the name sounds edgy. He's not sure why she'd want to meet him at a library, but he goes anyway. He climbs up to the 7th floor, just like the note said. Someone calls out to him. He turns around and sees a blonde woman walking toward him, introducing herself as Quinn. Jing asks where Voidblade is, since she's the one who told him to come here. Quinn explains that Voidblade is her informant, someone who privately refers people to her. She admits she was skeptical about recruiting Jing at first, but now she's changed her mind. She asks him to join their group while taking a seat. Jing sits down as well and asks what's in it for him. Quinn asks if Jing isn't looking for information about god relics. Jing is shocked. He hasn't told anyone that. Quinn says his reaction is enough confirmation. She asks how he even learned about god relics in the first place. Jing denies knowing what she's talking about. Quinn picks up a bottle of water and says it's fine if he doesn't want to talk about it. It's her fault for not explaining things first. She slides a teacup toward him and asks him to try it. Jing drinks it instantly, Subaru style, and says it tastes like pure water. Then she pours water from the bottle into a gold-trimmed glass teapot and pours it back into the teacup. She tells him to try again. Jing asks what the point of this is. He drinks again, and this time the water tastes sweet. Quinn explains that when the god died 287 years ago, the points of light that scattered were called God's blood. When God's blood fell, it embedded itself into living things, objects, or even fragments of human imagination. Objects that contain God's blood are called god relics. This one is relic serial number 1567, Sweetwater Kettle. Jing asks if he can check it himself. For all he knows, she could have added sugar beforehand. She hands it to him and he immediately begins absorbing its divinity. Excited, he asks what other functions it has, like whether it can boil water out of thin air or make it sweet without sugar. Quinn giggles, saying his description is pretty much spot on. She thinks he looks like someone who hasn't seen much of the world yet and finds that kind of cute. Jing notices that the water level inside the kettle doesn't decrease at all and asks if the water is infinite. Quinn smiles and says he's smarter than she thought. She says he should already know what that means. Jing replies that god relics disregard the laws of the world. The kettle is basically a perpetual motion machine, something that works endlessly without external energy. He asks if the endless electricity in the inner ring is also related to god relics. Quinn tells him to not overthink it. The very existence of god relics represents unreasonableness, something man-made items could never replicate. Jing asks why she's telling him all this. She hands him her business card. She says that 3 days ago, Jing defeated a monster as a normal person, facing an unknown creature without showing a shred of fear. She adds that his inner energy already surpasses the vast majority of people. That's why she wants him to join their relic containment company. That's all Jing needs to hear. A relic collecting company means infinite divinity for him. He immediately accepts before she even finishes speaking. He says he'll follow all her commands to the letter. He realizes how massive this is for him. Right now, his only source of divinity is god relics, and the twin life passive skill he gained from that divinity is already absurdly overpowered. With multiple divine skills, he honestly believes no one in this world would be able to stop him. Seeing him act all strange in front of her, Chin thinks he really looks like someone who hasn't seen much of the world. She pulls a sheet of paper from her bag and asks him to review the contract she prepared and sign it if there are no issues. At first glance, it looks no different from a standard employment contract, just with extremely high confidentiality. But the more he reads, the more it feels like a liability waiver. He asks if the job has a high risk of death. Chin explains that god relics are graded A, B, C, and D based on danger level. Since Jing is just joining, he'll only be assigned D-grade missions, which shouldn't be dangerous as long as he follows procedures perfectly. In the future, if he shows growth, he'll naturally be involved in more dangerous work. Jing asks if he can take on A-grade requests. She tells him that he doesn't need to worry about that for now, because when an A-grade relic appears, it's not something one person or even one company can handle. When that happens, official government agencies step in. Jing asks why she picked him. Even if he had come in contact with a god relic before, that doesn't mean he's qualified. Jing knows Quinn has no idea about his panel or his training. She's just inviting him based on Voidblade's one-sided recommendation. It feels a little suspicious. Quinn says he's wrong about one thing. She says it's not just that he encountered a god relic, it's that a god relic encountered him. Jing asks what she means by that. She explains that god relics seem to possess a degree of will and they actively approach people who attract them. She says she's one of those people, someone who naturally draws god relics. Then she points at Jing and says he has the same constitution. Offering him a high salary is her way of proving her sincerity. That explanation makes sense to him considering how urgently she's recruiting him. While signing, Jing says the salary really doesn't matter to him. He's mainly interested in the god relics themselves. He slides the signed contract back to her and says he looks forward to working with her. She replies that the feeling is mutual, smiling with satisfaction. He leaves after returning the contract, thinking between the Dragon Dojo and this job, he's going to be completely swamped, probably no time for school at all. He quickly messages his friend, asking him to tell the teacher he's sick and bedridden. His friend says he'll handle it. His monthly salary is $200,000, something he would have had to work over 10 years to earn normally. But for now, he wants to focus on getting stronger. After reaching the outer ring, he decides to check for an upgrade to his tween life skill. He activates it. A bunch of options pop up in front of him. If he chooses one attribute, it will double when using twin life. He already has resurrecting armor that doubles his defense, so he's already tanky. His main way of attacking relies on accuracy, not raw strength. And in a world of martial arts, speed decides the winner. So he chooses speed. He decides to test his current speed to see how big the difference is. He stands about 100 meters away from a street lamp and starts running. He reaches it in 10 seconds. Then he activates twin life and runs again. This time he reaches it in just 5 seconds. For a normal person, improving a 100-meter sprint from 20 seconds to 12 seconds is doable with consistent high-intensity training. But once you hit 12 seconds, every 0.1 second improvement requires hundreds or even thousands times more effort. Without exceptional talent and massive resources, it's fundamentally impossible. Now imagine this in hand-to-hand combat where every mistake is fatal. If he activates this skill, no one could predict his acceleration. It completely defies logic. It's a guaranteed win every time, a skill that ignores physical laws and limits. He decides to test it a few more times while his body is still warm, but then he suddenly realizes the skill is on cooldown. About 20 seconds had already passed since activation, so he can't spam it and he doesn't even know when it'll recover. He walks home feeling dejected. After training all day, his entire body is aching. All he wants is a hot bath and a deep, peaceful sleep. But while walking up the stairs, his vision starts fading. The next morning, he wakes up on the stairs. He looks around. He slept for about 6 hours. He wonders how he even ended up here. He checks the twin life skill and sees that the cooldown is over. Then he gets an angry message from Shan Yang asking him why he hasn't come to train yet. He immediately starts running to the dojo, shouting that he's going to be late. He storms inside the dojo. Shan Yang sees him and runs over, saying he arrived just in time. She grabs him and says they should have a sparring so she can show him the correct use of inner force. The other disciples start betting on who will win. All of them choose Shan Yang since she was only careless last time and Jing has only been learning martial arts for a few days. Shan Yang can't stop laughing secretly, but Jing notices her suspicious behavior and realizes she doesn't actually want to teach him. She wants to regain the face she lost in their last fight. Not that it matters to him, he wants to test his abilities too. He activates the twin life skill the moment the match starts. Shan Yang attacks first again. Jing pulls off a straight-up crab rave dodge, catching her completely off guard. While she's stunned, he grabs her hand like last time, cartwheels her over his head and slams her into the floor. Same move, same result. Shan Yang can't understand how this happened, even though she used her full strength. Jing casually says she let him win again before walking away, gaining a ton of experience points from using his skills. But it's less than last time since it didn't count as defeating someone stronger than himself. He wonders if the panel calculated that with his doubled speed, he's no longer weaker than Shan Yang. Even though she has way more combat experience, she couldn't react to him at all. His ability is genuinely insane, but now he needs to find the best way to fully utilize that speed advantage. The green-haired senior calls out to him and asks if he wants to train the Dragon Clan's hibernating technique together. Jing accepts. When they begin training, the senior is stunned. He thought Jing training overnight was just showing off, but Jing has already almost formed dragon-shaped inner energy. The senior explains that in the martial world, the peak physical state is called the treasured body, turning your body itself into a treasure. In that state, the body gains massive buffs. Muscles feel like they house the power of a water dragon. Tendons become like the roots of an iron tree. Skin turns flawless and clear like glazed glass. Bones become as strong as diamonds, practically indestructible, and when using inner force, the blood itself can boil like volcanic magma. But he says it's just a myth because no one has ever achieved it. Except that might not be true for Jing. What others see as impossible isn't impossible for him. Suddenly, someone crashes into the room through the window, startling both of them. The senior says he'll introduce Jing to the eldest and strongest disciple of the Dragon Clan, Mang. He warns Jing that Mang has a few quirks. He doesn't like talking, he's a muscle maniac, and he hates using the front door. He prefers entering through windows. Jing looks outside and realizes they're insanely high up in the skyscraper. He wonders if Mang really just jumped up here like that. The senior asks if Mang is looking for him. Mang starts waving his hands around strangely, but the senior somehow understands. He turns to Jing and says he has some matters to handle and is leaving. Before leaving, he advises Jing to remember that the essence of the hibernating technique is forceful delivery and shaping. Jing thinks about it, sits down on the spot, and starts training again, wondering if he can combine it with his aiming skill. About 3 hours later, the veins in his hands suddenly bulge. Using his aiming skill, he fires something forward and the wall explodes. He thinks it's way more impressive than the roadside pebble he used a few days ago. The old man starts clapping behind him, saying he didn't expect to see this today. Aside from his insane physical talent, he also has talent for ranged attacks. The old man gives him a golden pill and tells him to eat it. Jing swallows it without hesitation. The old man tells him to look at him, and suddenly Jing's consciousness fades. It feels like he's floating on water. The golden pill begins glowing and transforms into a massive dragon. It slowly opens its eyes and locks gaze with Jing. Suddenly, Jing feels scales forming on his arm. His head starts hurting as the energy inside his body runs wild. He asks if this is because of the pill. Then he steadies himself, takes a deep breath, and performs the hibernating technique again. As he holds his breath, all distracting thoughts fade away. While he practices, the golden dragon begins wrapping itself around him, completely merging with his body. He unlocks a new skill, visualization, as his eyes glow gold. He slowly opens his eyes in the real world and asks how long he was out. The old man says long enough to almost exhaust all the inner energy stored in him. He says Jing is truly amazing for being able to learn Dragon Chi on his first try. Jing asks what exactly happened to him. The old man explains that Dragon Chi is a form of emotion, like how people fight more fiercely when angry or when fighting for survival. The Dragon Clan style uses a technique to stimulate and control emotions, called the technique of stillness. Once combined with martial arts, he assures that Jing could succeed in any endeavor. Jing excitedly asks how he's supposed to combine them. The old man says Jing should have already grasped the essence of it and tells him to figure it out himself before asking. Jing asks if it has something to do with that state free from all distractions he experienced before. He starts thinking and realizes he can now solve complex problems in seconds, things he couldn't do before, even though he never seriously studied them. Jing tells the old man that he seems to have become smarter. The old man says that's only a small part of it. Jing also feels that his emotions barely affect him anymore, and his imagination has grown stronger. He remembers every detail of the golden dragon he briefly saw, down to even the smallest strand of its mane. He asks if this is the effect of visualization. The old man says it's useless to just talk about it and tells him to spar with Zhao. Zhao swiftly devours a massive piece of bread in seconds before stepping forward. The old man tells Jing that Zhao is his most outstanding disciple when it comes to emotional control, even surpassing her father at a very young age. Jing wonders how much stronger she is compared to Shan Ying. Zhao stands confidently in front of him and motions for him to come. Jing rushes forward without hesitation but gets sent flying back instantly. The old man laughs, saying Jing's intentions were way too obvious. Zhao dusts herself off as Jing recovers, then she charges at him again, thinking he'll do whatever it takes to win, no matter how ruthless the method. The one standing is the winner, the one on the ground is the loser. He gets kicked back again. While wiping his face, he says he can still continue. The spar continues all day until evening. As he ducks under one of her punches and counters with his own, he hits her built-in airbags and pushes her back. He looks at his fist and says the sensation was way too soft just now. The old man catches Zhao and says we should stop for today. He says Zhao must be hungry now and continuing won't be as effective. As Zhao leaves, Jing asks the old man why she never talks. The old man sighs and says it has something to do with her childhood. He says her story isn't something he can finish in a short time and promises to explain it later when he gets the chance. Then the old man asks Jing how he felt training today and if it was effective. Jing says he's never been this tired in a very long time and also never this happy. Zhao was fierce during their spar, and after over 5 hours, his experience shot up. He thinks he should keep bothering her for spars in the future. When he enters his apartment, he calls Noir and says he brought fried chicken for her. But she's not home. He wonders where she went this late at night. Then he hears the shower running. He looks back at the front door and only sees his old shoes, ruling out the possibility that it's one of Noir's friends. He remembers how she said she had many enemies and immediately starts panicking. He storms into the bathroom only to find Noir calmly taking a bath. She screams at him not to look, and he laughs and says the fried chicken he bought her is going to get cold if she takes too long. The words fried chicken hit her like a hypnosis spell. A few minutes later, he's in the bathtub too. Noir is completely out of it, still dazed. Suddenly, her tail ring starts glowing. Startled, she turns toward him just as the light gets too bright. When Jing opens his eyes again, he feels a human hand on his chest. He looks up and sees a human girl with cat ears. He asks how Noir managed to turn human. She immediately jumps up, telling him not to look, and covers his eyes with her tail. Jing tells her to calm down and says he didn't see anything. She asks if he's really telling the truth, completely flustered. Jing says they should get out of the bath before talking and tries to stand up. Noir suddenly lets out a moan when he moves. He asks if something's wrong, and she says it's nothing. He asks how she suddenly turned back at a time like this. Jing says they might have unintentionally triggered the transformation condition. Noir asks what he means by that. She realizes just now she felt something different about Jing. She wonders if that's why she turned back into a human. With teary eyes, she wonders what kind of weird trigger condition this even is. She also notices she still has cat ears, canines, and a tail. She curses whatever perverted god left behind such a legacy. She tells Jing not to get any weird ideas, saying this was just an accident. Then her eyes go wide. She feels something hard under her and asks what Jing is doing. Jing says it's not something he can control, and if she doesn't get off him soon, that won't be the only thing he can't control. Noir tells him not to dare open his eyes as she moves her tail away, but then she slips and falls. Jing asks what she's doing. She feels something hard and says she didn't mean to fall onto him like this. She says it definitely won't happen again, but lets out another moan before finishing her sentence. Jing asks Noir can at least be a little gentler, saying she's moving way too violently on him. Noir says she didn't do it on purpose. Jing tells her to hurry up and get out while he's holding back. He says he might not be able to leave in a bit. Noir quickly runs out of the room and slams the door behind her. Jing sighs a relief and comes out of the bath an hour later. Don't ask what he was doing in there that long. When he comes out, Noir has already turned back into a cat. She says she turned back after calming down and now she can't turn human again. Jing reaches out to pet her, but she quickly dodges him. Honestly, after everything that just happened, that reaction makes total sense. He tells her about Quinn, who seems to know a lot about god relics, and says maybe Quinn could help turn Noir back into a human. She gives him a cold whatever, but inside she's thinking that once she becomes human again, she'll beat Jing into submission until he admits he was wrong. She starts laughing sinisterly at her own plan. Jing gives up trying to talk to her and goes to bed instead. When he wakes up the next day, he's restored to peak condition. He sees Noir sleeping next to him. His phone pings. It's a message from Quinn, asking him to meet her for his first job. Jing smiles and says he's been waiting for this. Jing goes to the library to meet Quinn again, but she's nowhere in sight. He wonders if she's running late, even though she told him to come quickly. The only person he sees is a girl wearing glasses, but the more he looks at her, the more she resembles Quinn. She removes her glasses and says Jing's eyes are sharp to notice her so quickly, even with a disguising relic. Bro definitely doesn't want to admit he recognized her because of her assets. She blushes when she catches him staring and coughs to get his attention. He immediately looks away like he was focused on something else. She explains that the glasses make the wearer unnoticeable by suppressing their presence. Jing asks if that's all they do. She says once the glasses are removed, all the suppressed presence erupts at once, and the longer they're worn, the more dazzling the wearer becomes afterward. Jing wonders if that's why his eyes were glued to Quinn's chest the moment she took them off. He quickly asks what his job is. Quinn tells him to look at something first and says this mission is special. It's a C-rank containment mission, which normally wouldn't go to someone inexperienced, but the target is God Relic number 1105, the Villain's Crown of Glory. This relic continuously enhances the wearer's primal desires. The current wearer is a girl named Luo. Once she sees a good-looking guy, she can't help but want to possess him. Jing asks if that's why she gave him the glasses. She says he's correct. Since he's already good-looking, if he wears the glasses for a few minutes, then removes them, he'll instantly detonate Luo's desires. Once she's head over heels for him, he can simply remove the Crown of Glory and restore her to normal. Quinn says this mission belongs to Jing. After hyping him up last time, she's basically using him as a honey trap, but since he can come into contact with two different god relics and drain them of divinity, it's a good deal for him too. He even thinks he should keep the glasses and wear them for 10 years to become completely irresistible. Quinn asks what he's thinking, seeing his sinister smile. He asks if the glasses are hers. Quinn says obviously not, she borrowed them from another containment company. Jing asks if there are other companies like theirs. Quinn says if she forgot to mention them. Jing says he assumed there was only one since she always acts mysterious and high class. Quinn says he misunderstood. Relic containment is very different, and bluntly, they're no different from common street sweepers. She explains there are thousands of known relics in the world. They can appear anywhere at any time, and no single company can get to all of them first. On top of that, collecting relics is extremely dangerous, and not everyone is willing to do it. Jing asks if they work in partnership with other companies. She says not necessarily. The state outsources the work, and some companies will do anything to earn that money. She warns Jing to stay vigilant in the field because he may run into people from other companies. Jing says he understands. Then Jing says he wants to test the effectiveness before leaving. Quinn asks what he's talking about, and he removes the glasses. Instantly, her face turns red, her heartbeat skyrockets, and the effect is obvious. Later that day, while traveling by public transit, Jing checks the mission brief. Luo has been actively spotted in the South District, in bars, discos, and host clubs. She has the full underworld boss lady package unlocked. Her profile states that she carved out her own territory using the physical buffs from the Crown of Glory and formed a gang called the Rose Gang. Every day she preys on locals, draining them of their vitality. At the same time, the crown continuously enhances her desires. The stronger her desire, the greater her physical buffs become, and if she isn't stopped, those buffs will keep stacking. Once the crown is removed, however, she can be restored to normal. The bus reaches the South District station. Jing gets off and walks towards the listed locations. When he arrives, he sees a guy getting beaten with a bat by a blonde woman who shouts that she can do whatever she wants and that she can beat up anyone she wants. Jing wonders if she's the target just from her voice and confirms it when he sees the crown on her head. An old man thanks her and asks her to take care. She asks why he's trying to send her off so quickly and where his 2 sons are, saying she hasn't seen them in a while. The old man asks which one she wants to see and says he'll call them right away. She says she obviously wants both. Jing mutters that there's no way he's seducing some old hag and he'd rather die. Suddenly, a group of people appears calling out to Lu. Jing assumes this is an enemy gang coming for revenge and decides to hide and observe for a bit. The leader of the Razor Gang, Duan, steps forward, saying he's heard a lot about this woman's arrogance lately. Lu asks who Duan is. One of her men explains that he's the leader of the Razor Gang, the one who beat them up before. Lu walks up to him, says he looks pretty good, and asks if he wants to play with her. Duan scoffs, asking what this old lady is even pouting about. He tells her to return her territory while launching an attack, saying he's going to settle this once and for all. Jing realizes this used to be Razor Gang territory, but it was taken over by the Rose Gang, sparking this feud. Duan's men charge together and a brawl breaks out as they start beating up Lu's gang. Seeing her pretty boys getting crushed, Lu loses it, shouting about how those Razor Gang mongrels dared to ruin her good time. Duan asks if she's finally taking them seriously and attacks her again. She crashes into a shutter, grinning, saying this is getting interesting and that she's going to teach him a lesson. They leap at each other and start trading blows. Even though Duan is the better fighter, he only manages to slightly scratch Lu. No matter what he does, he can't damage her. She's just too tanky. While waiting, Jing absorbs enough divinity from the glasses to upgrade a skill. He chooses physical strength. Then, he picks up a pebble and throws it using his aiming skill, shattering Duan's femur. Lu looks around, demanding to know who did that and telling them to come out. Duan thinks Lu set up a sneak attack and yells as his men rush to help him retreat. Her gang celebrates, and Lu says she still wants revenge on Duan for landing the first hit. Jing steps out. Lu asks if he's the one who attacked Duan just now. Jing confirms, and she asks if he used a gun. He says it was something like that, and that she won't be needing it to deal with her. With one glance, Jing can tell Lu has no formal training. She's just brute force and instinct. He decides to take her head-on without even using his charm from removing the glasses. She smirks and asks what he means by dealing with her, wondering if he's talking about her and him in a bed. Jing closes his eyes and takes a deep breath, releasing his dragon energy. Lu stares at him shocked, asking who he even is. Jing opens his eyes and says she can just call him Set. He activates the twin life skill and bursts forward, kicking Lu in her side and sending her crashing into a wall. He starts punching her in the face over and over. After a few minutes, he stops, shaking his hands, saying it felt like punching a wall. Some bystanders ask if this is a movie shoot. Her gang members wonder if their boss is crushed under the rubble. A hand suddenly pops out of the debris, and Lu jumps out with an enraged expression. Her crown starts glowing as she says he's really pissed her off now. Jing thinks that the longer the fight lasts, the more XP he gets. Lu leaps at him. Jing dodges to the side and knees her in the face. Her head snaps back, but she suddenly starts smiling. She grabs his hand and says he can't run away anymore. Jing simply brings his hand close to her face and flicks her eyeballs. She staggers back, crying that her eyes hurt. Jing remembers what his master told him, a win is a win, no matter how it's achieved. He kicks her between the legs, leaving her groaning and bent over, then steps forward and slams his palm into her head, knocking the crown off and smashing her into a crater. The crown rolls a little distance away. Jing follows it, picks it up, takes a photo, and sends it to Quinn, saying he secured the crown. Seeing Lu struggling to breathe with her face smashed into the ground, he flips her over so she won't suffocate. He leaves the crowd to decide what to do with her after everything she did under the crown's influence. He notices that his body's divinity absorption rate has increased as well. While he's doing that, a man in a suit approaches Jing and tells him to hand over the crown, saying it's not something Jing is qualified to touch. Jing asks what happens if he refuses. The man asks if Jing wants to die. He analyzes Jing, thinking he looks only 16 or 17 and probably lives in the outer ring, meaning he must be far weaker than him. He walks up and gives Jing one last chance. Jing kicks him in the nuts, but the man doesn't even flinch. He says he obviously guarded against a move like that. While running away, Jing shouts that only a pervert would guard against that. The man chases after him, saying he'll actually kill him if he doesn't stop. Jing wonders if this is one of the agents from other companies that Quinn warned him about. The man's body feels strange, way too hard, like a machine. He smashes through a wall while reaching out for Jing. Jing dodges and keeps running. The man grits his teeth as Jing flees. Jing doesn't want to fight someone he doesn't know how to deal with. He sees that the crown's divinity absorption is now at 81/100. A wall beside him explodes as a fist flies through. Even though he blocks, he crashes through 4 different walls. Jing coughs blood and realizes he can't outrun this guy. After extracting the divinity from the crown, he gains a new skill, Shadow Flame. He immediately activates it. The man enters the room telling Jing to hand over the crown. He says he'll let Jing off with just a broken leg and a foot. Jing suddenly grabs the man's mouth. The man bursts out in shock, realizing he's facing a recipient. Jing asks what a recipient is and if the man was referring to him. The guy jumps back, saying who else could he possibly be talking about? He thinks that the black flames in Jing's aura only mean one thing: he's facing a recipient as an enemy. Jing still doesn't understand what a recipient is. The man tries to run, but Jing doesn't let him escape. He sends something flying toward him, though Jing himself doesn't know what it was. He only intended to kill the guy, but the shadow flames rush out on their own without a command. The flames catch up to the man. When Jing glares at him, the flames suddenly enter through his nose. The man dies on the spot. Jing immediately starts vomiting. He receives a huge amount of XP for defeating an opponent stronger than himself. Afterward, he inspects the corpse. The man's entire body is covered in some kind of extravagant artificial skin with extremely high durability. The flames only left faint marks on the surface. If Jing hadn't destroyed him from the inside, the man probably would have escaped. Jing picks up a rock to test the flame's power. The black flames deal damage based on the target's density, and they leave no external traces. The rock evaporates within seconds. The panel explains that the flames grow stronger the darker it is, and that skin exposed to sunlight weakens them significantly. The flames suddenly disperse on their own. Jing wonders if this skill also works on a cooldown, but decides it's better to leave quickly and explain everything to Quinn. Back in the South District, in front of a disgusting monster, an old man asks Duan if he knows why he was summoned, while casually petting the grotesque creature. Duan says he does. He was warned repeatedly not to cause trouble, but he still did. The man vanishes and reappears in front of him, grabbing him by the head. He asks why Duan still caused trouble despite his warnings, and if he's tired of living. Duan collapses to the ground, begging for forgiveness. The old man tells Duan to forget about it, then asks what happened to what they had sent out earlier. Duan says it seems to have been destroyed. The old man asks if White Raven did it. Duan replies that it was apparently a young man who injured one of the bugs. The old man asks if a kid defeated his bug. Duan says the man was named Jing, just an ordinary person. A vein pops on the old man's forehead as he asks how an ordinary person could possibly kill them. He shouts that even though the test subjects weren't perfect, they still shouldn't be defeated by ordinary people. He orders Duan to go capture Jing so they can feed him to the insect mother. He says the insect mother needs to consume more people so she can give birth to more bugs, so he can build an army. While riding the elevator up to the library, Jing wonders what Quinn will say after he caused such a mess on his very first mission. He figures that making excuses would be pointless, so he can only hope to make amends with his results. When the doors slide open, he sees Quinn bowing slightly to him while apologizing. She says she never expected something like this to happen and admits that leaving Jing to handle such a dangerous job alone was an oversight on her part. Jing was fully prepared for her to snap at him, but seeing her like this leaves him confused. She tells him that she's upgrading the mission to C+ rank and will give him additional compensation for his troubles. Jing accepts, and she thanks him for his understanding with a sigh. She then says the identity of the man Jing killed has been confirmed. His name was Yingkon, a C-class containment professional from the XU company. She explains that she contacted the company, but they refused to take responsibility, claiming Ying-kun may have been acting on his own. Jing says that doesn't make any sense. Why would a man want a crown of glory that only works on women? Quinn slides him a map and asks him to look at something. The XU company operates inside the inner walls, and it would be impossible for them to send someone all the way to the outer ring for a mission. There were no loopholes to exploit either. She assumes there must be another reason behind what happened and asks Jing to leave it to her and not get involved himself. Jing agrees, hands her the ring, and starts to remove his glasses. Quinn suddenly blushes and tells him not to take them off. She says he might still need them for future missions. She then mentions that Ying-kun's autopsy report showed something very strange. All of his internal organs had completely disappeared without leaving any residue. Shadow Flame was far too dangerous a skill to expose so casually, especially when Jing himself knew so little about it. As he takes his glasses off anyway, he says he'd rather not talk about it. Quinn becomes completely flustered and says everyone has their own secrets and that it's not a big deal while avoiding his gaze. Jing then asks what the item she just gave him was, holding up a card. She explains it's a containment card, which will make future missions much easier. He asks if that means he's official personnel now. She confirms. It, besides serving as an identity card linking him to the company, also grants him access to the data store and the library. She stands up, saying she still has work to handle, and asks Jing to go inside the library and take a look for himself. Jing waves goodbye, thinking this is a great chance to look up information on Nuar's cattail ring. He enters the data library, which looks completely different from the outside, holding information on almost all god relics discovered to date. He picks a data box labeled Goddess of Death's Favor and tries to unlock it, but his keycard is rejected, saying his clearance level is insufficient. He quickly tries another relic with a higher number, but is rejected again. He runs through the floor trying to access different relics, but almost all of them deny him. After running around for a while, he wonders if this is some kind of joke. Queen clearly told him the library would be completely open to him, yet it's still asking for permissions. He wonders if the cattail ring will also require special clearance, and decides to find it first. He locates the ring's data and prays before trying to open it. Luckily, it works. A warning appears stating that cattail ring relic is classified as danger level B, higher than Jing's current C, so only partial data will be revealed. Jing is shocked. He thought the ring only transformed people into harmless kittens, yet it's ranked higher than a relic that lets someone form a gang. He takes the data box to a table and sits down. The ring allows the wearer to freely transform between cat and human after wearing it for 1 full month. Long ago, archaeologists exploring ancient ruins suddenly began shouting fanatically after discovering the cattail ring. They started worshipping alien gods and formed an alien god cult. Jing looks further into this alien god cult. After an alien god died, the earth cracked open in certain areas, revealing massive underground catacombs. Explorers who entered found tools capable of communicating with alien gods. Those who gathered into cults in pursuit of power were called alien god cultists. When cultists receive gifts from alien gods, they are called recipients. Jing flips through more pages and sees that 200 years ago, an alien god called the Lion Sages tried to contact the god Bastet. The god never responded until a believer obtained the cattail ring and transformed into a cat, finally gaining the goddess's blessing. However, the blessing was bestowed upon the ring itself rather than the believer, granting it even more mysterious powers. As the fusion deepens, the wearer begins to inherit Bastet's abilities, until they eventually become the true Bastet. Therefore, the Lion Siege sect will kill the current holder of the cattail ring at all costs to retrieve it. In other words, they will come after Nuar's life.